If you've been thinking about growing your own potatoes, but you feel overwhelmed with all the talk of chitting and hilling and special seed potatoes, today's video is going to be for you because I skip all of that and I still get a great harvest. And today I'm going to share some simple, no fuss potato growing tips that will help you get an abundant harvest every single time. These are the tips that worked for me. And I start with organic potatoes from the grocery store. No special seed potatoes. I use containers or grow bags and a deep layer of mulch. And every single time I get an abundant, beautiful potato harvest. One of the biggest misconceptions when it comes to growing potatoes is that you need these special seed potatoes. And while you can go this route, there are a lot of awesome varieties you can get by buying the special seed potatoes. Seed potatoes can get really expensive. And to be honest with you, I just have never saw the hype or the benefit. I have used seed potatoes in the past, and frankly, I feel like I've gotten better results just growing with organic grocery store potatoes. The key is though that if you're buying those grocery store potatoes, they have to be organic. Potatoes that are traditional potatoes or non-organic potatoes are going to be sprayed with a sprout inhibitor. And this can either delay their ability to sprout or lead to no sprouts at all. And you may put a potato in the ground that rots instead of grows more potatoes for you. But as long as they're organic, you can grab your favorite varieties and just do some experimenting to see which ones are going to grow well in your area. A lot of people are going to tell you that you need to chit your potatoes before you plant them. And if you're not familiar with this term, what that means is basically just setting your potatoes in a location that is going to allow them to get a little bit of a sprout before you plant them in the ground. I skip this every single time. A lot of times I will actually take potatoes directly from the grocery store and plant them in my grow bags and they will sprout just fine. Now it's probably better if you let your potatoes age a little bit and see some eyes forming before you get them planted. But again, I have planted them directly from the grocery store and they have all sprouted and done just fine. And I got a tremendous harvest doing it this way. And when it comes to growing your potatoes, there are a lot of different options, there are a lot of different methods, and there are a lot of different things to consider. So I'm not gonna say that there's this one size fits all way of growing potatoes. It's gonna work for everybody. But for me, what I have found is the easiest way to grow my potatoes is in containers. And if you're a beginner or you're short on space, I would definitely recommend going with growing in containers. My preferred method is 5-gallon grow bags. For me, this just made the most sense. It is the most affordable option, I think, to growing potatoes for me. What I do is I use the 5-gallon grow bag because this allows me to get an abundant harvest while reducing my costs on soil and amendments. Grow bags are compact, they're reusable, and they take up a really small footprint. So if you have a balcony, if you're growing in an apartment and you have a small patio, or even if you just have a corner of your yard that you can utilize, this is definitely the way to go. But even if you have a massive backyard, I have found that growing in containers is easier for me. And it's definitely my preferred method every single time, no matter how much space I have. 5-gallon grow bags only utilize about a cubic foot of soil. This is gonna save you a ton of money because you don't have to put a ton of soil in your 5-gallon grow bag to successfully grow your potatoes. Grow bags also make harvesting really easy because you can just dump them over and find all of your potatoes that way. And I will also tell you, you can save money by reusing your potting soil. So potatoes don't need really expensive, really fancy soil to grow in. They will take some of the nutrients from the soil, so it's a good practice to add in some fertilizer and use a liquid fertilizer throughout the growing season until they begin to flower. But you can reuse your potting mix for multiple seasons by just amending and refreshing it rather than just using that potting soil once, dumping it out, and having to buy new potting soil the next time you go to grow in it. When I planted my potatoes this year, what I used was some organic red potatoes from the grocery store. I cut each potato in half and buried both halves very deeply in my grow bag. This method worked really well, but I will say that I did wind up with some smaller potatoes, and I like the smaller potatoes, they taste great, but I was hoping for a little bit more of a harvest. So next time I'll be planting 1/2 of a potato in each 5-gallon grow bag to give the plants more room to grow. And to plant, I just used a basic organic potting mix, nothing fancy. I buried my potatoes about 6 to 8 inches deep and covered them with soil, what I actually did was I layered the bottom of the 5-gallon grow bag with my potting mix, put the potatoes in, and then covered them. A lot of guides will tell you that you need to do this hilling, which is you kind of bury your potatoes and then you just keep mounding soil on top of it. I skipped all of that, to be honest with you. I have done it in the past. I have used hilling in the past, but I don't think hilling helped me get any more of a harvest than just burying them deeply to start with. And while I like this method of using 5-gallon grow bags, I have grown them a lot of different ways as well. Potatoes are one of those things that's really versatile. You can grow them in ground, you can grow them raised beds, you can grow them containers. They're not super fussy when it comes to the soil quality. They will grow in pretty poor soil actually. And because of this, a lot of people will use potatoes as the first crop they grow in a new space. And once you get your potatoes planted, one of the very best things you can do is cover them with a very thick layer of mulch. My favorite mulch is pine shavings, but you can also use straw or hay or leaves if you really wanted to. Even grass clippings would work. To be honest with you though, I stick with my pine shavings mulch as it's very absorbent, holds on to water, and reduces the amount of water I need for my potatoes throughout the growing season. This is especially important because I'm growing them in 5-gallon grow bags, and grow bags can dry out really quickly. So anything I can do to keep moisture in that soil and grow my potatoes healthy is a huge benefit to me. And I will tell you that by using a very thick, very heavy layer of pine shaving mulch, I probably wouldn't have had to water at all the entire season growing my potatoes. Now, I do live in Florida, we get a lot of rain, but I was growing potatoes during what we consider our dry season, which is like March and April. And I was still able to pretty much avoid watering. I did add water a few times just to kind of make sure they were doing well. But all in all, the pine shavings really did their job. And like I said, I probably could have avoided watering the entire season of growing my potatoes. And while mulch is gonna go a long way to retain moisture, it's also gonna help keep that soil insulated and a little bit cooler. This is really important when it comes to your potatoes because potatoes actually don't like it to get really hot. So if your soil is too warm, this can stunt or delay the growth of your potatoes. And when it comes to pine shavings specifically, this is a great mulch option, especially for beginners. It's incredibly easy to lay down, stays in place once you put it there, and it's very budget friendly. You can get it at your local Tractor Supply store. And when it comes to taking care of your potatoes throughout the growing season, they're surprisingly low maintenance, especially if you've added that layer of mulch. You are gonna wanna water, make sure they have a consistent moisture in that soil, but other than that, they really don't need a lot of fuss. Fertilizing with a well-balanced fertilizer like AgroThrive can be super beneficial for your potatoes, but I would say that you don't need to overdo it with your fertilizer. You definitely don't want to overlove your potatoes because fertilizer is going to lead to rich, green, luscious foliage, but what you really want are big, nice tubers. And so if you go this route of utilizing fertilizer, which I suggest doing in the beginning of the life of your potato plants, you're gonna wanna stop fertilizing as they begin to flower or come into maturity. And this way, what you'll do is you'll reduce that green foliage growth and help that plant to divert its energy into tuber growth. So fertilize the beginning of their life, but definitely stop as they come into maturity. When it comes to watering, you're gonna wanna make sure that that soil, like I said, is consistently moist, but not soggy. Potatoes do not like soggy soil, so keep that in mind. Also, you're gonna wanna make sure that you're checking it often because if, like I said, especially if you're dealing with grow bags, your soil can dry out really quickly. If you're utilizing that mulch, it's gonna go a long way in keeping that soil consistently moist, but you're still gonna wanna keep an eye on it just to make sure your potatoes have enough water in the soil to grow nice big tubers. A lot of potato varieties will flower, some actually will not. But once this flowering begins to happen, this is actually a really good sign that your plants are coming into maturity. Once the flowering happens, after this, your plant is going to begin to die off. And that's exactly what we want to see. So you can begin to harvest your small potatoes or your spring potatoes if you want to, as your plants are beginning that dying process after they've flowered and they've started to yellow a little bit. You'll notice that you have some small potatoes at this point, and you can actually harvest these. These are quite delicious, and leave the rest of the plant to continue to mature. I actually do it this way because I like to get a harvest over several weeks in the growing season and allow, I don't want all my potatoes at once. I want them over that several week time period. And as that foliage begins to die back, your potato tubers are going to get larger and larger in size. As long as the weather stays cool and dry, you can actually leave the plants the way that they are for the next several weeks and just harvest your potatoes as you need them. Now you can also harvest them all at once, and potatoes are great when it comes to storage, and you can store them for quite some time. So what I typically do, because it's a little bit harder for me to store my potatoes because I'm in Florida, is I can actually grow 2 to 3 plantings of my potatoes in a year. And I'm able to harvest each one of those plantings over about 5 to 6 week time period. This is just easiest for me. It's also the laziest way to do it, to be honest with you. And when I want potatoes for dinner, I go out and I will dump over a bag and harvest them. So in ground or even raised beds, it can be a lot of work to try to harvest those potatoes. But when it comes to your grow bags, this is really easy. All you gotta do is lay a tarp down, dump the grow bag over, and then dig until you find all of your potatoes. Your potting soil is still there on that tarp, and you're able to just put it back in the bag and reuse it. Most of your potato varieties are going to be ready about 90 to 120 days. And like I said, you can use my method of harvesting them over several weeks as long as it's staying cool and dry. Once your potato plants have fully died back, you can usually allow your potatoes to sit in the soil for another week or two. And this is what I meant by I will use about a 5 to 6 week period of harvesting my potatoes, because I can start with those young potatoes by going out and dumping over 1 to 2 bags and then just harvesting the contents of those bags for dinner. And then the next time I come out, I will do the same thing. And then once I get to that point where it's been about 2 weeks since my potato plants have fully died back, I will harvest whatever is remaining. So by doing it this way, I have multiple potato harvests throughout the year, but I also get multiple potato harvests from each planting. So if you're just starting out, don't stress over the perfect way to grow your potatoes. They're really easy to grow. They're really fun to grow. So just get planting your potatoes. You don't need to worry about hilling or special seed potatoes or any other fancy things that you might think that you need. Leave me some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of the video. Let me know what your favorite potatoes are to either eat or grow. Let me know your favorite potato growing tips as well in the comments down below. I'm going to leave some videos on the screen until the next ones come out. I'm also going to link to some of my favorite gardening products in the description below. Now remember, these are affiliate links, so I may earn a small commission if you purchase through them at no additional cost to you. However, I only link to things that I know and love and products that I use in my own garden. May your garden be full of grace. May you be abundantly blessed. We'll see you next time. Bye.